statement. We'll open up for questions. You get a microphone too.
All right, y'all ready? We got Texas A&M here at Williams-Brice at 3:30. Certainly need our crowd ready to roll and loud, and I know they will be. And I want to thank the ones that stayed for the entire duration of the game Saturday. This was like something I've never been through before, and I certainly appreciate them, and they were certainly loud at the end there, and we appreciate that. A lot of respect for Jimbo. He's a great friend, and we worked together back at Auburn in the 90s, and then obviously together at LSU with really good football coach, and he's got a good football team. Offensively, Kellen Mond is playing at an extremely high level, completing over 60% of his passes, and a guy that can hurt you with his legs as well. But he's playing really good football for them and getting them in and out of the right runs versus the right looks and the things he's doing. They got a really good stable of backs, and Williams is a special guy as far as running through contact. He creates a lot on his own. Corbin's a young back that's really coming on for him. Sternberger, the tight end's been a huge addition for him, and a guy they certainly have targeted a lot, as Jimbo always has in the tight end in his offense. Big physical group of receivers, offensive line mostly all back from last year of guys we faced. And defensively, Mike Elko does a fantastic job. Mike was at Wake for a while there, and always liked watching his teams play and his defenses play. But they're very disruptive up front, the front four at Durham and Kiki and Mack and Matabuke are very disruptive guys. They create a lot of issues for you. They've done an outstanding job in the run game. Two very active linebackers in Dodson and Alaka are both guys that are very active that we played against last year. And Donovan Wilson is a safety. He's a very physical presence on the field and does a really nice job for them. But they've got a really good team speed, which obviously helps their special teams. Their punters averaging about 60 yards a kick, I believe. So we've got to manage for that in the game, but they've got good specialists as well and good team speed. Injury-wise, Jake practiced today. I thought he looked good. If he's healthy for Saturday, he'll be the starter. But I've told Jake and Mike both of them need to be ready to go. Be ready to go play. We got two guys we can win with, and that's good to have. JT eBay is going to be out. Dennis Warnham has started some jogging, but will be out for the game. A.J. Turner is questionable, and Eldridge Thompson's having surgery on Thursday, which I think I announced last week. He'll be out for the season. And I open up for any questions.
Raise your hand and get a microphone to you, David, the first.
Will it go up to pregame like last week when determining if Jake can go? And if he does play, do you have like a leash on him and saying like now that you have Skarnecchia behind him?
No, I think it'll be determined before that. He looked good today. I think he's going to be fine. And at the end of the day, we'll continue to look at some mobility things tomorrow. But again, I'm never going to put a young man in a situation where he can't protect himself, and he couldn't have Saturday. Mike performed really well, and a guy that we had a lot of confidence in going into the game, and even more so obviously after it. And at the end of the day, we'll make decisions in the game to win the game.
Can you take us through that decision? Why Jake over Michael?
Well, he's played a lot of really good football for us. He's got a lot of experience, and I think he's played really well. And obviously, Mike's got a smaller sample set, played well with his opportunity. But I'm making a decision what I think helps us win. And at the end of the day, that's what we're going to do. But we got two guys I have confidence that we can win with. So I feel comfortable with both guys.
Is there much or any correlation between penalties and winning?
None.
So do you pay much attention to how penalized your teams are?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that undisciplined penalties, there's aggressive penalties that sometimes you can coach through, as far as those things are concerned. But we don't tolerate undisciplined penalties, the things that hurts your football team, and there's lack of composure in a situation. But if you go back and look at it, and I'm not going to sit there and research it, I have before, that penalty yardage has nothing to do with winning a championship. Have you researched it?
Well, your 2012 Florida team was last in the SEC in penalties, more penalties than any team in the SEC, and you won 11 games. So.
Well, I looked it up that year because I was really frustrated.
Right.
And I looked up the 06 and 08 Florida championship teams. They were the most penalized teams in the league, too. And so was the 96 team.
So is there a correlation between – I mean, is there a positive correlation? I mean, is there a correlation between aggressiveness that leads to those things and playing better football?
I couldn't quantify that to say that there is or there isn't. You know, I think that there is a line, obviously, that you got to draw. I think from a standpoint of, I've never want to hold back a player from his personality and who he is. But you can't hurt your football team. You can't make silly decisions and lose your composure, which to me, when you lose your composure, it affects you as a player. So it doesn't affect maybe the instant play of what just happened. It affects the next series. It affects the next 5 plays because you lose your composure and you're not making really rational decisions when you lose your composure. So certainly I do think that it affects you, yeah.
Are you comfortable with where your team
No,
is
we've had
walking
way
that
too
line?
many self-inflicted wounds, at the end of the day. And, we were the least penalized team in the SEC last year. We were a team that kept our composure for the most part, and we didn't have self-inflicted wounds. I mean, that's something we're not going to tolerate. It's been frustrating to have. But, again, is there a correlation between winning a championship and penalties? No, there's really not. I mean, there's evidence to back that up.
Will, you mentioned Sunday that
But
you
you got
guys,
hold on a second. But you got to be a good enough team to overcome that. Right. There you go. I'm sorry.
no, no worries. You mentioned Sunday that you guys would be here late trying to look at the run defense. What came out of that meeting, and what have you guys come up with moving forward?
Well, I think that it's not one thing that you put your finger on and say, "Eureka, here we go." It's some misfits at times, whether it's from a secondary position or linebacker position, getting bounced out of a gap at times, leveraging the ball and tackling. And you go back and look at our A&M game last year. The ball got on the second level several times. We tackled it every time it happened. So 6 to 8 to 10-yard gain didn't turn into a 28 to 30-yard gain. And that's where the huge gash runs that have happened for us this year, where we've given up tremendous amounts of yardage by not tackling on the second level. And that's been frustrating. And that's been a little of the issue at the safety position. It's been some at the corner position and some at the nickel position. So those are all things we're going to continue to work on. We work on tackling, and every single day that we're in pads, that's something you got to do well in order to have a good defense and to be the type defense you want to have. But I think you go back and look at the Missouri game. I think they did a nice job in the run game on some things, and they caught us in some numbers at times. They got a hat on a hat, and you got to defeat a block at times. At times you're going to be at the point of attack. A tie goes to the offense. You got to defeat a block and make a tackle, and so we didn't do that enough times.
Taking away health and in-game experience, when it just comes down to strict ability, what distinguishes Jake and Mike, the two of them, with their ability?
Well, I think they're very similar players. I think you look at, as far as calling the game and what we carry into a game, they're very similar as far as those things are concerned. But I don't know that I don't know that when you evaluate that, you can't take experience out of it. You can't. That's part of it.
Well, last week you expressed confidence in Michael that he could go out there and perform. And after watching him play meaningful minutes and leading the team to a victory, what does that do to your level of confidence? Do you have even more confidence, or is it just the same because that's what you expected from him?
Well, I would say more just from the standpoint of we felt like he was going to play well. And certainly under the circumstances, which no one could have predicted or thought of, he played extremely well. Going through the weather and all of the other issues that we had, coming down to a 1-minute drive to win the game. So, I mean, there's no question. But you don't ever know till you see a guy do it. You either feel really comfortable about the situation or you might be a little unsure, but I was never unsure about how Mike was going to perform.
Let's go to Mike on this side of the line.
Will, JC obviously had a big week, was recognized by the SEC, but there was that one play in particular, that one where he rushed down the sideline,
Yeah.
was able to save that touchdown and ultimately gave you guys a shot to win at the end. What have you seen from this young man just since he arrived here at campus and just his growth?
Well, I think maturity would be the first word. I mean, obviously, God's blessed him with a lot of ability, but really mature when you're in the meeting room, when you're in walkthroughs, very focused, very dialed in to what he needs to do to be successful and to be a good football player. And that's a really good, for a young player, that's really important to have that maturity to understand when you dial in, because some of them have a hard time keeping their focus over extended period of times or consecutively day-to-day operations. So that's the one thing that jumps out at me is his maturity to be able to handle those situations, and no moment's too big. You know, he handles the moment very well, regardless of the situation.
Would you say effort like that is contagious, though?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any question. He certainly raises the level of the guys around him. I think he hit 22 miles an hour on the on his catapult system on that play, so that was pretty impressive.
See in the back, Mike, on that.
Well, what can you take away from the days that you played Jimbo when you were at Florida and he was at Florida State? How does his Florida State teams look compared to this year's Texas A&M team?
Well, I think obviously it's his first year, so he's still recruiting to schematically what he wants to be, and that takes time. But a traditional two-back run game, multiple tight end sets as far as their 12 personnel groupings. And a lot of concepts run game wise and pass game wise are very similar, protection wise. Obviously those things are going to carry over. That's who you are as a coach, and then you adapt. And the one thing Jimbo does a great job of is adapting to what he has with his players and adapting to fit the scheme and system for what his players can do. And that's something you see. But, we go a long way back to LSU, spring games and spring scrimmages and fall camp and going against each other a bunch. So, but he's done a really nice job of adapting to – they've got some really talented guys. They had recruited well, and they've done a nice job with those guys.
The touchdown with Crockett that was called back with where JC tripped him out of bounds, is that something that that Missouri, did they submit that to the league, and do you get any feedback on that, and just what did you see on that play?
I saw a great effort, and he was out of bounds, and I have no idea what Missouri does. Hey, if they call it, it's out of bounds. They call holding, it's holding, right? I never question that.
Kind of following up on Rick's question, with the confidence coming off of this past game in Skarnecchia, if the offense struggles under Jake, regardless of the knee, will you be more likely now to run Skarnecchia out there as a way of trying to get the offense moving?
Well, we're going to make decisions to win the game.
Get Joe in the back.
Coach, you guys have dealt with adverse weather already this year. Have you guys been tracking Michael at all? Any contingencies if there's a worst case scenario if law enforcement can't work the game Saturday?
No, Coach Tanner handles all of that. And if there was an issue and I haven't talked to him, he certainly would let me know.
Colin over the right.
Coach, how do you feel like the offensive line's done in the run game so far, and where do you feel like they can improve the most in that?
Well, I think they've played extremely well. Coach Wolford wasn't as pleased after Saturday. Felt like some things that we had repped in practice that we missed in the run game. I thought, again, we did a really nice job protecting. I think the only sacks we've given up were late in the game against 41 from Kentucky, who's an outstanding player in some obvious passing situations. So, but again, I think we've been very consistent up until Saturday in the run game, is getting a hat on a hat and giving our guys some opportunities with some run lanes.
Will, with that running game, were you guys trying to maybe not throw too much at Michael last week, and that's why there were a lot of first down runs called?
Well, we wanted to be hard-headed in the run game. We felt like that's something we needed to be able to establish the line of scrimmage to give us some opportunities down the field. The game changed in the third quarter, obviously, with the weather. I mean, that was an issue. So, but I think you saw as we continued to work through the game, he had some opportunities. He took advantage of them. But again, we needed to be able to run the football. I think we ran for 130 yards or something like that. Against that defense and what they've been porous against in the passing game, but they've been very good in the run game. But we needed to be able to do that to create some opportunities for us down the field.
A&M managed to shut down a very good Kentucky rushing game last week. You guys struggled at first against Missouri. Just how do you address that and try to get that run game on track?
Well, again, we got to find some ways. We can't get in a situation where we become a drop-back game. They're very active up front. You got to keep them off balance. And, I'd say the same thing about Missouri. Their inside techniques are really good. Beckner's a really good player. And that's why we did not want to get into a one-dimensional game with them. That's why we needed to stay in the run game. And sometimes it didn't, pleasing to the eye at times. But you have to do those things in order to be able to create some balance in what you do and not let them tee off every single snap. And that's what happens in our league with some of the defensive line we face.
Over the Where have you seen improvement in Jemias at safety, or was him starting just a function of JT being out?
No, I think he's continuing to improve each week. We've got to still, continue to improve communication and things like that to make sure we're all on the same page. But again, he's been a very productive player for us, and he's been a productive player last year and this year. I think he's done some nice things for us.
What's the level of progress you guys have kind of seen from the third down defense? I know statistically it's taken a big jump, and is that something you sort of see reflected in the play, or is that maybe a little more situational?
I think it's game to game. I do think we've done a nice job. We've hit our goal, I think, in every game this year as far as 70% of the time getting off the field on third down. I think awareness is a little bit. I think our defensive staff's done a really good job of making sure our players understand, as you said, situational football, paying more attention to down and distance, paying more attention to what a team does on 3rd and 3 to 6, from 7 to 10, 11 plus. The game changes when they do those different things. Where the ball is traveling on third down, who the ball is being thrown to, who are they targeting. I think that, overall, just done a much better job from coach to player of understanding those things. And I think our players have done a really good job of executing on third down as well, because we don't really add anything new, but we do change things week to week pressure-wise to give a different look based on the protection, and our players have done a really good job of executing. We hadn't had many mistakes on third down.
A lot of guys have kind of raved about Deshaun Fenwick in terms of it on scout team and how he's able to kind of give you guys different looks. Just how valuable is he, and what have you seen from him in practice, I guess?
It continues to grow and improve, and I think that, the weight room is really important for Deshaun to continue to catch it up to his body as far as the strength and the endurance and those things are concerned. But has done a really nice job in the last month or so on scout team as far as running the football and giving a great look and trying to give him some reps with our other guys as well.
When you went back and looked at the film from the punt protection issues, was there anything different from what you spoke about after the game?
No, we missed a protection issue on the first one. And on the second, we were fine if we just catch the ball and punt it. But on the first one, we had a miscount.
I think you said at some point earlier this season you weren't all that satisfied with special teams as a whole. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what's just sort of been your take on how just everything has been?
Obviously the punting situation Saturday was awful. Normally when you have a punt blocked, you lose a game. That's what should happen. That's what normally happens. We had 2. So in those situations, extremely disappointed with that. I think Joe's been a little inconsistent. He's hit some really nice balls, but he said about one a game where we're not flipping the field like he's capable, because he's capable of doing that. Obviously been very pleased with Parker and Alex with his kickoffs. I think our kickoff coverage has been solid. It's been difficult with our kickoff return, and the numbers aren't great, but our starting field position is outstanding because of the different alternative kicks that we're getting because of Debo. So our starting field position's outstanding. Our kickoff return stats aren't very good, but when they're sky kicking it and you're getting it to the 35-yard line, the 38-yard line, we'll take that if that's going to be what we have to do. And I think on punt block, we've had some opportunities. I think we've called one block in each game, and I think we've been close twice. In those situations, we need to do a better job in the details of executing in those situations. And we should have had a big return on Saturday if we make one block on a sideline return for Brian. And we need to get Brian loose. Brian's a very effective returner. We had the block in the back against Kentucky, or the ball would have been flipped on the other side. So, again, we need to continue to give Brian an opportunity.
Following up on that theme, rolling Nick in at punt return was just to get Brian off his ankle some?
Yeah.
And do you feel like Brian's ankle is such that you can give him back that full load, or you just have to monitor that as you go?
We'll monitor. He practiced today and was fine, but he got a little fatigued on the ankle Saturday. Mm-hmm. That was the only thing.
On Nick, what, if anything, can he bring to the table as far as advanced stuff on A&M, or is it, with the coaching staff being changed, is it negligible?
We haven't asked any question. We won't put him in that position.
Coach, your team has been able to run the ball pretty effectively, over 100 yards in the last 3 outings. Are you seeing the chemistry form on the offensive line and the development of those 6th, 7th, and 8th guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dylan Wonnum's a guy that's really continues to come along. Malik's a guy we've got a lot of confidence in. Jordan Rhodes is another guy that, again, continuing to push and bring him along. Chandler Farrell's had some snaps and done a nice job in his opportunities. But again, I think up until Saturday, we've been very pleased with our offensive line in the run game and in protection. And we didn't block some things as well as we would have liked on Saturday against Missouri. And we need to have a really good day against A&M because they're a very disruptive front. All right, thank you.